And welcome everybody to another edition of the Brody File. Glad you're with us back in D.C., the stuffy old studio. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton. It's coming to a theater near you, a campaign event site near you, and boy, oh boy, is this going to be very interesting. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. I mean, this literally could be like the Real Housewives episode. I mean, chairs are going to be flying. It could be Jerry Springer times 20. And we're already starting to get a glimpse of that. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, both releasing some ads. Actually, Donald Trump released an Instagram ad against Hillary Clinton on Benghazi and a few other things. And Hillary Clinton's super PAC releasing an ad on Donald Trump and women because, boy, is he going to be really taken to task over some of what he has said in the past about women. So we want to play you a few of these clips. Here it is. Donald Trump, first of all, Hillary Clinton talking about Donald Trump's women problem, and then Donald Trump on Hillary.
Nobody respects women more than Donald Trump. That I can tell you.
I'm not supporting.
Would you cut off funding of Planned Parenthood?
Yes, I would. You know, you could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
Priorities USA Action is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Including FBI officials. Look.
Well, I don't know why that's funny.
It is going to be a wild, wild west shootout for sure. So now we turn our attention to Donald Trump. He's going to be the nominee. Right now, he's the presumptive nominee. But who is he going to choose as his vice presidential nominee? He says he'll make the decision in Cleveland at the convention around mid-July or so. But the word on the street, at least from the Brody File sources, Newt Gingrich could be the guy. We'll have to see about that. There's a lot to be said in a Brody File commentary. Here is what Newt had to say on Fox News Sunday.
If you ask me, I'm certainly going to say I want to sit down and talk about it. I don't think it's an automatic yes. I think you have to think through what does he think the job involves.
A couple quick things about Newt. Good pick if he goes that way. And I know a lot of people are going to say, why are you picking an older white guy? Because Donald Trump, you are an older white guy, and two old white guys in a very diverse electorate might not be the smart play. But let's be honest. If we could all just be honest here for a moment, the way Donald Trump is going to win the presidency is he has got to get older white blue-collar voters to come out and vote for him in droves. A lot of them have stayed home in past election cycles. He'll need to change the campaign and voter dynamic. Newt Gingrich could indeed help him, at least in that area. Now, as for our conversations with Newt Gingrich, boy, we have talked to him a lot over the years, and here we go as we go back into the Brody File Video Vault archive for some of the best Newt Gingrich clips when he ran for president 4 years ago. I'm curious, when I ask people, what is it with Newt, I'm talking when I talk to evangelicals, They say, you know what, they bring up the word forgiveness. They say, you know what, the media wants to bash you for the past, for some of the marital issues of the past, but yet when I talk to evangelicals, they're like, you know what, been there, done that regarding forgiveness, and that is very important. What does that say to you, the sentiment of forgiveness from evangelicals?
Well, I think it's important. I think it's also important that they recognize that I have not hidden from the facts of my life, that I have confessed my weaknesses, and that I have had to go to God for forgiveness and for reconciliation. And I think most people can identify, either with themselves or with friends or with loved ones, that life has moments that are very sad that you wish weren't occurring, and that you look back on them and you seek forgiveness for not having been everything you could be. So I think in that sense it may make me more normal.
When you see this termed in all these papers as a two-man race, and Romney and Perry, what goes through your mind? Because I would think that there's just so much more to it, yet you always see it as a two-man, it's pegged as a two-man race.
It's a combination of arrogance and stupidity. Okay, it's arrogance because who's the news media to pick? You know, Iowa doesn't vote till January. New Hampshire doesn't vote till January or February. No American citizens have voted. So how can the news, and by the way, it's also ignorance. In 2007 at this point, Rudy Giuliani and Fred Thompson were the front runners. At this point in 2003, You had Howard Dean and Wesley Clark were the front runners. I mean, you think, how I'm always amazed at the shallowness of reporters.
Newt Gingrich here on the Brody File. All right, when we come back, Bob McDonnell in the Supreme Court. His day in court has happened. Now, what will happen next? Jenny in the B Block with some interesting Brody File commentary on the media and the Supreme Court. Back in a moment. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. Well, look, June is right around the corner. That means a couple of things. First of all, the NBA Finals are taking place. Hey, go Warriors. I don't know, whatever. I don't really care. Also, my son is getting married in the month of June. And one more thing. Former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell is going to find out his fate thanks to the Supreme Court. You know, McDonnell was convicted of public corruption and faces 2 years in prison. But during his hearing last month, many of the Supreme Court justices actually seemed sympathetic to the idea that the laws under which McDonnell had been convicted gave prosecutors way too much power to label what he did as corrupt. Now, there are a lot more details to all of this, but the bottom line is we should know more in late June. Speaking of Bob McDonnell, I was going to call her Jenny Wishon. Jennifer Wishon, aka Jenny in the B Block, has a few thoughts about Bob McDonnell. She has covered him very closely over the years and was in the Supreme Court when the hearing went down. She has not only some comments about that, but especially on the media. Time for Jenny in the B Block to hijack the Brody File commentary.
I was ready. I had memorized the justices' seating chart and brushed up on my knowledge about each one. I arrived an hour early and even felt full of myself as I breezed past the long line of people waiting in the chilly morning mist and entered through the staff entrance. A week earlier, I had applied to get a reporter seat in the courtroom. I was one of the lucky ones, or so I thought. There were dozens of reporters there to cover this case, and we were all given a card with an assigned seat number. After going through security, I found my assigned seat and was shocked to learn the only thing I would be seeing was a beautiful gilded acorn gate covering the space between two marble columns covered by heavy red velvet drapes. The members of the public I had breezed by earlier were on the other side of the gate with an unobstructed view of the justices. I asked the otherwise very helpful press aide if she would open the gate so we could actually see what we had applied to cover. She responded that the public was on the other side of the gate and we were to have no contact with the public. God forbid. The holes in the gate were no more than an inch wide. So when the justices came in, the only thing I could see was Justice Stephen Breyer's head. But if he moved at all, then I only saw his bald spot. I would have taken a picture of the gate for you, but no electronic devices are allowed inside the courtroom. Now, think about it. Even if you are one of the few Americans who knows the names and faces of the Supreme Court justices, could you recognize their voices? I covered the confirmation hearings of Justices Sotomayor and Kagan, so I could distinguish their voices along with that of Justice Ginsburg. But when the men started talking, unless the arguing attorney mentioned them by name, it was mostly a crapshoot. I should note that the small group of reporters who regularly cover the Supreme Court do have seats that allow them to see. But accommodations for extra reporters could have easily been made. I wear a variety of press passes around my neck every day. This one shows that I have been vetted by Secret Service and allowed to be in the same room as the President of the United States any day of the week. In court that day, it was my job to observe what happened and report back to my million viewers. The federal government restricted my right to do so. I had fewer rights to observe than the general public. And listen, I don't want more privileges. Just the same amount would be fine. This infringement happens all the time in our nation's capital. Try shooting video of the State Department sign, yes, the sign on 23rd Street as an accredited member of the media, and you'll be accosted like Al-Qaeda. We'd love to show you some video, but we don't have any. But walk by with your family and pose for photos as tourists, and you're golden. The same is true inside the Capitol Visitor Center, built by more than 600 million tax dollars. Tourists take pictures and videos there all the time. But try recording video as a member of the press and you'll become the target of security. It's ridiculous, it's frustrating, and most importantly, it's unconstitutional. The next time I cover the Supreme Court, I'm putting my press pass in my pocket and going in as a regular Jane.
Jenny in the B block, going rogue in the Brody File commentary. All right, when we come back, transgender rights. What are we talking about? One day I want to go into the woman's bathroom, next day I want to go. Oh my goodness gracious, we got to sort this out. It's next. And welcome back everybody to the Brody File. All right, time now to talk about transgender rights. Can I put that in quotes? I mean, we're talking about what, 0.00001 of the population. How many zeros? 0.1. Not many transgenders out there, but we've got to look out for them. And of course, with the bathrooms and targeting, you can't go into this bathroom. The whole thing is an utter mess. The Obama administration, of course, getting involved now. Target says, come on in, man, woman, any bathroom you want. Of course, in North Carolina, it's been a big problem down there. The bill, now the law down there, saying, in essence, that you have to stick to, I know this is crazy, you have to stick to the actual gender that you were born with to go to that bathroom. So if you're a man, you have to go to the men's room. If you're a woman, you have to go to the women's restroom. The travesty of it all. The governor of North Carolina on Meet the Press talking about this very bill.
I don't think government should be telling the private sector what their restroom and shower law should be to allow a man into a woman's restroom or shower facility at a YMCA, for example.
Governor Pat McCrory talking and waxing poetic about this law that is, it's just really unbelievable what's going on in North Carolina. We could have put it in the Oy Gavolt segment or the Oy Fame Moment of the Week segment. We decided to put it in the C block. One more story here in the C block, and that has to do with the Taste of Texas. It is a restaurant down in Houston, and you know who we had to send down there? Of course, the church lady. Tracy Winborn is back.
That's right, David. The church lady is back. Well, you know what they say, everything is bigger in Texas, even their love for food. And David, I know you know that. You've been to Texas. Well, I found one restaurant that's also known for its love for the Lord.
Welcome to Taste of Texas. This landmark steakhouse in Houston is famous for selling certified Angus beef. You could also call it a museum of Texas history with guns on the wall and artifacts and documents from heroes of the wild frontier like Sam Houston and Davy Crockett. But there's more to this restaurant than meets the eye. The owners call it their mission field.
So when we get to work in the morning, we walk this huge 18,000 square foot, 500 seat restaurant and pray for all that God will bring to us on this day because this is our ministry.
My wife is very faithful about that. She will walk, and I'll go with her, but she's the instigator of this. She'll walk the four corners of the building and pray for the employees and the customers.
Ed and Nina Hindi are bold about their Christian faith. This is the first thing you see when you walk through the front doors. A cornerstone with 2 scriptures proclaiming God's faithfulness. And then once inside, customers are greeted with Christian music.
In the restaurant business, I was taught a long time ago, there's 2 things you don't ever talk about. One is religion and the other is politics. Well, those are 2 subjects that are near and dear to our hearts. Religion, of course, our faith being our first and foremost.
The doors of Taste of Texas opened 38 years ago. Today, it's the largest independently owned restaurant in the state and the top 30 in the country. They serve thousands of customers each week and employ more than 200 people. TripAdvisor lists it as number 4 out of nearly 7,000 restaurants in Houston, but it wasn't always this successful.
When your business is not doing well, I mean, you find yourself on your knees in prayer, in anguishing prayer. And, you know, it wasn't too far. I finally just asked, well, Lord, what do you want me to do?
At a time when we were really broke, we had borrowed $10,000 to open, and at the end of 8 years, we were $250,000 in debt. And God encouraged us to be persistent.
So the Hindys committed the restaurant to the Lord, and their persistence paid off. While this steakhouse, rich in Texas history, may go down in history itself, the trials didn't end there. In 2010, they lost their son in a skiing accident.
He was married to a beautiful young woman. They had 3 small children. And in a blink, he was gone. He caught an edge skiing, hit a tree, tore his aorta, and was gone in the blink of an eye.
And when you get that phone call, it shakes you really all the way down to your foundation. It didn't shake our faith, but it did cause me, and I guess anyone involved in that situation, to sit down and just say, okay, in the midst of this storm, what do I really believe?
Ed says Christians often find themselves in a storm or in between storms, but can take comfort in knowing that God is there in the midst of it. That's certainly been the case for the Hindys. About a year ago, a twin-engine plane Ed was piloting crashed when someone put the wrong fuel into it.
It'd be like putting diesel in a Porsche, and then just enough for us to get back up in the air again before both engines quit. And we found ourselves in a cloud layer over East Texas, and we came down right on a highway and lived the walkway, open the door of the plane, and walk out. And that is absolutely a miracle of God.
Ed says he's happy to have an extra year added to his life. Now he's going on year 2. In the meantime, he and his wife and their entire family will keep running Taste of Texas as they make plans to expand. And they will continue honoring the Lord with their lives and even their restaurant decor, displaying true Texas tales of the famous frontiersmen who were also passionate about their Christian faith.
All right, if you have any story ideas for the church lady, go ahead and tweet me. I'm sure you can find that Twitter handle on the screen somewhere. Let me know what's going on in your community. All right, David, I'm off to church. See you next time.
Oh, my Lord. Tracy Winborn, the church lady. Gotta like that. She's like at the organ, she's playing her music. I like that. All right, when we come back, Ted Cruz fans, don't worry. We're gonna give you an update on what Ted is doing now and what it would be like if Ted Cruz was still in the race. Back in a moment. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. All right, time now to talk about where in the world is Ted Cruz. Well, he's back in the U.S. Senate. As a matter of fact, not only is he back in the U.S. Senate, he has officially announced that he will run for re-election as senator down there in Texas. So, good for him. He's not in the race. Now, of course, we know that Donald Trump's going to be the nominee. We had a chance to actually go to Houston and speak to Ken Cuccinelli, who was, not is, but was the delegate manager for Ted Cruz's election campaign. Now, look, we had to somehow run this interview, and I know it's dated because it's over now. The delegates, the whole thing is going to be, it's a fait accompli. But we wanted to run this interview because we went down there. We spent a lot of money, so can we run we're going to run a little bit of the Ken Cuccinelli interview. This was done before Ted Cruz got out of the race, but we're playing this for Ted Cruz fans because we want you to close your eyes and imagine that he's still in the race and that Ken Cuccinelli is talking about how they're going to win this thing at the convention in Cleveland. So close your eyes and watch this. Let's forward for a moment to Cleveland. How do you anticipate this playing out exactly? What's beyond the end game of making sure Ted Cruz is the nominee? What is the delegate end game in Cleveland? What are you trying to do here?
Well, this is it's one delegate at a time, convincing and electing. There's several levels of election that go on here. There's the one that you sort of hear about in the news most of the time about, like Super Tuesday and the votes at the polls. Well, that's round 1, and there are many more rounds. There's precinct level conventions, there's district level conventions, there's state level conventions, where we're competing with all the other candidates to advance our supporters to Cleveland, to be the people doing the voting. Now, in most states, they're obligated to vote a certain way based on that first round of voting. But of course, and this year's a great example, when you have 17 candidates, a lot of high quality candidates, no one is likely to get to a majority.
When you hear Trump talk about rigged and crooked and all of this, your reaction is what?
Well, hypocrite, whiner, I mean, in Missouri, he got 382,000 votes and 37 delegates. We got 380,000 votes and 15 delegates. And we didn't moan and whine about it. But I will tell you what, we're going to show up at those 8 Missouri congressional districts this weekend, and we're going to make a run at winning all 24 delegates. We may not get to all 24, but we're not giving up on Missouri. And all they did was pay the vice chairman of the party to hire her to try to perform for them. She has not. And but their typical solution is spread some money around and then moan about it. And you know, he's the biggest whiner in American political history, as best I can tell. And that's simply because he's getting outworked and getting his butt whipped in all these contests.
Ken Cuccinelli here on the Brody File. For extra credit, spell Ken Cuccinelli's name or say it 3 times fast. Back in a moment. And welcome back, everybody, to the Brody File. All right, some final closing thoughts before we leave you. Let's talk about the Democrats for a moment. You know, Hillary Clinton, she's on a glide path to the nomination. She's going to win the nomination, and yet Bernie Sanders keeps winning state after state. Bernie Sanders fans not happy about how all of this is going down because they really feel that he got the short end of the stick with all these super delegates. Anyhow, they're going to be the ones causing a ruckus at the Democrat convention coming up in Philadelphia this summer. So that'll be interesting to watch. By the way, for Bernie Sanders, congratulations. You came in second. You get a bottle of Brody File Turtle Wax. As for Donald Trump, he moves along. He'll be in Cleveland at the convention. That's when he'll name his vice presidential nominee. And look, it's interesting because for Donald Trump, a lot of times these candidates coming out on the Republican side have to kind of move towards the middle. Newsflash, Donald Trump already in the middle. So he doesn't need to move any more to the middle or to the left. He actually needs to move to the right. If he moves to the right, he'll get more of those evangelicals on board. They might not be excited, but he does need those grassroots evangelicals that do the dirty work in the precincts and around the country to actually get voters to the polls. He's going to need them big time, or as he would say, big league, to make sure that he is the next president of the United States. Donald Trump, the next president of the United States? Until next week, everybody, God bless. Have a great week.